Hi everyone. So I wanted to talk quickly about the new approach to editing files that we should take for Duo Workflow instead of the standard kind of write file approach. So this approach is essentially very simple. That instead of what we're doing today, which is just asking the LLM to give us full content of the file, instead we ask it to give us the file name, an old string to search for, and the new string to replace it with. And we give it kind of instruction saying it has to be the exact text, add a line above and below. This just gives us that assurance that it'll actually find the corresponding lines. And the point behind edit files are going to replace that text and only that text in the file. Now, the advantage of doing it this way is, especially for like long files, you've seen that the LLM gets quite starts hallucinating, or it starts becomes lazy in terms of doesn't give us the full file contents. The purpose of this tool is to prevent that. And I'll show you that in action as well. But let's start with a kind of simple example here. So let me just clear this. And I have this simple file called test. And I've just scaffolded a basic kind of LangChain invocation for this so that we could see what that looks like. So I'm not really using LangGraph, it's just LangChain with certain tools, right? And so let's start with this test.ts file, which I've got. And basically all I'm doing in this test.ts file is a simple kind of express application which has add, multiply, divide kind of methods and roots, rest roots essentially. And so what we want to do is we want to modify the test.ts file to add a square root. So that's the goal. And so with the edit file tool, if I run this, what you'll see is that it reads the file first to get the context, and then it gives the new string and the old string to replace it by. So it says, hey, take this old string, take this old string here, and then replace it with this new string, which includes this, which includes basically the square root function, which I'm asking it to create, right? So it's replacing that text. And so now if you see the result, you can see that it's gone ahead and next to add, subtract, and multiply and divide, it's also added this, I should look at the updated file, but it actually goes and it also adds the square root function here. So if you see the square root function has been added to the file. So this is great. With a small file, I don't think it matters much, like the write file would work equally well. But with long files, this is where it becomes more of a problem. So I've got this other utilities or text TS file. And if you see, it's got a whole bunch of things. It's got like these interfaces, and it's got a bunch of helper functions like capitalize and convert to camel case and truncate and stuff like that. And so it's a large file. It's got about 700 lines or so. But within these 700 lines, I do have like this HTTP client thing. And let's say I want to get it to, so right now there's a get post put and a delete method here. And this file is large, right? So let's say I want the LLM to do this. And if I were to, instead of using the edit file, I were to use the write file tool like we have today, and I give it the goal to just add a new patch method to that, to the HTTP client, and go ahead and run that. Again, it'll read the file, all 700 lines of it, and it'll give me the delta, right? And it'll create this utilities updated.ts file, which we'll just have a look at in a second. And if I open up utilities, you could see that it adds these placeholders, right? Previous content remains the same, and towards the end, rest of the content remains the same. So it is actually just not really giving me what I want, which is the whole file. Instead, it's giving these placeholders, and it's basically acting in a lazy manner, right? And so this is fixed with the edit file tool. So if I go ahead and say, it's a write file, use the edit file tool, which does the string replacement. Now if I go ahead and run this, so what it'll do is, instead of giving me, again, it reads the file, but instead of giving me the whole file content, it's going to give me the delta, right? So it's going to say, hey, this is the update that you need to do. So this string is replaced with this patch string. And now if I go to utilities updated, you can see that it's not really messed up the file. It's created the file as is, and then it has gone ahead and if I go to the HTTP client, you could see that it has the get method, the post, the put, delete, but also the patch now. So it's gone ahead and appropriately created a patch method. So that's the new edit file tool, which now I'll start writing into the main code base. But the idea is to do this POC to just make sure that this approach works well. Thank you.